Serious broadcasting now from an award-winning film to a radio anniversary. Without Walls.
In part 2, real secrets on the neglected masterpieces of Ingmar Bergman. But first, Mike Smash pays tribute to his old mates at Radio 1.
The voice of Radio 1.
Now we come to a record which the other week, I think I discovered something world-shattering. I think, although I can't be sure, and I'm sure you'll help me out on this, that this is perhaps the first Michael Jackson record in which he doesn't go... Now, it's not easy to do that. I don't know how he does that, but...
It's Gary Davies, the classic track, BBC Radio 1 FM, London W1 M4 DJ. And you just heard Guns N' Roses. Goes very well with Bizet, really, doesn't it?
Hi, Gherkins. Mike Smash here, Britain's most poppadabadobulous DJ, with a Silver Jubilee-tastic announcement. 25 years ago, Radio 1 was born. The nation rejoiced, and rejoices still. Why? Well, I'll tell you. Not because of any trivial concerns like the music that Radio 1 plays. No, but rather because of the great guys who play that music. Guys who you, the ordinary members of the public, adore and revere. That's right, DJs. Mad and pop-tabulous guys who have become mouthpieces for the nation. Guys who are aware of their responsibility to the public and not prepared to just rabbit on endlessly about such inane topics as, I don't know, sunbathing, or the weekend, or the weather.
Provincial towns of jog round. Hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ. Hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ.
That's horrible. Now, I hate rain, don't you? Yes, it's DJs that make radio, and I know that most people out there would rather hear DJs talking about things in the great way that they do than have to put up with a lot of music getting in the way and interrupting a DJ's delicate thought processes. Well, now's our chance. We're here to celebrate 25 years of lunacy and broadcasting genius on Radio 1. Let's sit back and enjoy the megatastic story of our favorite national institution from those guys who rarely get the chance to talk about themselves. And why not kick off with the granddaddy of them all, a deep personal friend of mine, and the guy whom I regard not so much as a DJ, but as a philosopher, the truly bonkers Tony Blackburn.
We are the last of the generation of household names as such, because it is more difficult now. There are so many radio stations, so much television now. It's more difficult to make an immediate name for yourself. And I was very lucky. I had the right management. I had a terrific publicity agent, and that's very important. And I think a lot of people don't realise how important the newspapers can be as well. Being constantly in the newspapers is very, very important to projecting an image and a face that goes with the voice. I don't think I marketed myself as a soap powder. I think the manager that I was with very skillfully marketed me as such. I was aware that I was being marketed, but I didn't mind it because the image that they were putting across of me, I could see that what they were getting at, and it was certainly something that I wouldn't have objected to too much. And it wasn't non-accurate either. I mean, they weren't asking me to do things that I wasn't actually doing.
Tony Blackburn.
I remember opening up a menswear shop, funny enough, in, I think it was either Edinburgh or Glasgow. And they dropped me the wrong side of the road, and there were so many people there. I had police escort. I remember there were about 13 or 14 policemen there trying to make a way for me to get to the shop. And my jacket was totally ripped off. And there was also a supermarket that I opened in Norwich. And there were so many people there, all the windows caved in. So all I did was I walked from the front of the supermarket to the back. I was driven away, and they had to rebuild the place. I mean, it was absolutely amazing in those days. The early days of Radio 1, it was a honeymoon period where the disc jockeys were all, in those days, I suppose it was the flower power era, and we put our suits on to be respectable, and some of the producers at Radio 1 suddenly went all sort of psychedelic on us. But we got that one sorted out pretty quickly. It was very nice in those early days. Everybody was bending over backwards to help one another, and there was a terrific team spirit there. And the BBC was very willing to give us quite a free hand in those days. One thing I did find strange was suddenly this having a producer. I didn't know what that was really, because having been at the pirate radio ships, suddenly we were confronted by the BBC producer who sort of stayed in the studio with us and didn't do anything. And so I had to get rid of that. I had to get rid of that sort of side of things, because I get very shy if there's somebody in the studio with me while I'm broadcasting. So once having sorted that out, it was not too bad. And for the first 5 years at Radio 1, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got carpeted in the early days for mentioning my pantomime too many times that I was appearing in. I also got carpeted for telling the miners when they were on strike to go back to work, which was fair enough. I mean, that was wrong. I think at one stage I tried to solve the Northern Ireland situation in a programme, which probably was, in retrospect, wasn't a thing I would do nowadays, being a more mature person. Tony Blackburn! I think when my personal life went slightly wrong and I was going through a divorce, I think probably everybody, they change a little bit. But behind the scenes, the hierarchy there, they didn't exactly help. They did put the boot in. I don't think I was right in necessarily sharing that part of my life with the listeners. Some of that might have been the fact I was very depressed, and it wasn't helped by the fact that in those days I was taking a bit of Valium to steady my nerves as well. I was taking that, so I was on this slightly downward trend there a little bit. I used to probably, it was at the stage of my life where I was depressed, and I was taking Valium, and probably, I mean, I'm not a great drinker, but I think I was probably at the time drinking too much, certainly at weekends, and I was in a moderate stupor for some of the time. I've always been a bit of a loner, so I didn't have many friends to bring me out of that. It's a tough business, though. It's a tough business, and there's always somebody there that would like to see you lose your job, and they tried to knock me down.
Was that the end of DJ Sad Tony? Not on your Nelly Welly. Tone fought his way right back to the top by using sex as a weapon, and his sexual weapon was a full 12 inches.
And over the air, I used to chat people up, and you know, people used to ring me up, and people used to come on and say, well, I'm wearing stockings and suspenders, and they used to play up to me and this sort of thing. And the cab drivers loved it particularly. You know, I used to get in cabs and they'd remark on this programme.
Come on. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things.
I just find them insulting, not patronising. Insulting.
And I used to listen to Tony Blackburn, and I thought was good in the 60s. Sorry, Tone. Right? And it's all that. He's trying to do a long time, and he's not coming off too well because he's just barefaced sex cackle, isn't it?
That's right, they're all racist, sexist. They take the mickey out of cab drivers, which is a bit of a, you know, a pastime for you know, celebrities in the media.
Don't ask me about DJs, they want to be shot. Why? Don't believe in them. Why? What do you think? I like listening to the music, not to their banter.
When he gets these girls phoning him, he goes right over the top, and he really... I honestly never listened to it. So.
Tony Blackman, you're talking about? Yeah, it makes me embarrassed sometimes, I must admit.
But we all like a joke. Like, it's all silly, sexist sort of talk, isn't it? And some of it's a bit strong.
We were doing a thing called Dial a Date, I think, where we used to fix people up with one another, and particularly if people rather fancied somebody and they hadn't got enough courage to pluck up and tell them that they would like them. So I used to encourage them to ring up, say where this person was, and if that person was listening, of course, they would realise that person fancied them.
We was listening to Tony Blackburn one morning, and some girl phoned in, and she was working in a certain shop. She fancied the bloke a few shops up.
And I said, well, why don't you go and... She said, oh, I'm too shy to go over and tell him I love him, or like him. And I said, well, where would you like to go if you went out? Say, imagine that you could go out with this guy.
She said, well, I'd take him home. And he said, what would you do? She said, I'd take him upstairs and give him a good...
fuck. So,
And you think, God, you know, no, it can't be true, you know, but yeah, there it was.
I said, well, that sounds like a terrific idea to me. Then we quickly played a record. I make myself out still to be a sex symbol, as David Hamilton does. I mean, we're the two biggest sex symbols in the country, in our minds, you see, and that is the humour of it. And the fun of it is staggering on stage and making a fool of yourself, and that's the fun of it.
Trendsetter or dangerous role model? When deep personal friend and gifted icon Gary Davies is on air, the public is divided. Pop kids idolize him and base themselves on him in dress and outlook, whereas grown-ups are often outraged by Gary's wild and fast lifestyle and over-the-top personality. But hey, they would be. He's young, he's free, he's single and bonkers. He's Gary Davies.
I used to be made out to be the BBC's glamour boy. And that was something that came about was when I first joined the station. I remember after being there probably a few months, I was called into the then program controller's office, and he said, well, your voice is okay, your shows seem to be all right, but nobody knows who Gary Davies is. Who are you? What are you? If you listen to other DJs, you know, Mike Reed, well, everybody knows Mike Reed plays a guitar and likes playing tennis. DLT, well, he lives on a farm and he talks about his animals all the time. He said, who's Gary Davies? What does he do? And I said, well, you know, Gary Davies is just a normal single lad, just like anybody else, who's just moved from Manchester to London, who's staying in a tiny room in his sister's flat, who enjoys going out and having a good time just like anybody else does. And they said, well, play on it. So I did.
Ooh, Gary Davies. Ooh, Gary, ooh.
And it really took off and it really caught on. People sort of said, yeah, Gary's the boy about town. All the press really loved it. Whenever I was out, people used to take photographs. But then after a few years, it backfires on you because people actually believe what they're reading in the press. They believe that I'm out every single night of the week. I never have been. I never go out more than any other normal person would do. I mean, I don't think I've been out to a club probably in the last 3 or 4 months. Been very busy. But I just love going out with friends, just going out to restaurants, staying in. Staying in now is a real luxury. You know, to be able to have a night in doing nothing, put your feet up on the couch and just sort of sit back and watch a video and not think about anything else. That I really, really do enjoy. I'm just a normal person. There is absolutely nothing different about me except that I have a job that is in the public eye and that does attract attention. But in terms of, it's a job. You know, I don't go around saying, hello, I'm a celebrity, you know, you know, I'm a really important person. I'm just a human being.
Words fail me when we come to our next phenomenon, for that's what he is. Talent is quite literally his middle name. Well, actually, it's sort of Dave or Robin or something, but it should be talent. He's a guitar legend and distinguished songwriter in his own right. He's the man who gave us sunglasses, or shades as we DJs call them, and the man who changed the face of the world forever with Pop Quiz. Deep personal friend and broadcaster, Mike Reed. Mike Reed. 275 and 285. How those words will live with us forever.
Oh, the glam and the glitter and the boys are back like never ever been away. Oh, the glam and the glitter and the boys are back, and the boys are here to stay. Oh, with the glam and the glitter, bum, ba, da, ba, da. I just sort of had this idea and used the names of, you know, Slade down, afraid to get down, to get with it. The cat crept in, still got that spirit. And Gary's still the leader of the gang. You know, you start getting ideas and working around it. A lot of the main songs are basic. I mean, when you sit just playing for your own enjoyment, you know, you're probably playing, you know, more sort of intricate stuff and just fiddling around and going off into a dream world. When you're actually writing a song, you tend to sort of, you know, get that noise going so you can really feel something behind it. It's difficult to say how you write a song anyway. It's just something in the air. Sometimes, you know, you write them in the car and get home and think, better get them down quickly. Mike Reed.
You know, I know the media sometimes sort of use it as it becomes a stigma, that sort of dreaded two-initial prefix, disc jockey or DJ, which they sometimes see as being slightly derogatory by sticking that in front of your name. I don't think it is. I mean, that old image of, you know, the disc jockey is a complete and utter jerk is not true, because it's all the people I work with, they're interesting, a lot of them are intelligent in varying degrees, a lot of them are nice people. I think a lot of them don't deserve some of the stuff that's been thrown at them. I think that's one of the problems of it, that people see you always a, you know, prattling git, because that's what you're paid to do, really. If you are, you know, bunged up with anybody in a room for hours, you probably get fed up with them. but you're there all the time talking about you and exposing yourself, which is quite fun. I love the road shows. I mean, I remember my mother phoning up after one series of road shows, and she said, "You're in your element, aren't you? The roof down in the car, the guitar in the back, going from town to town in the sunshine, just having a good time." And I said, yeah, I think it's sort of Romany in my soul. I think it appeals to me. It also appeals to the, you know, the third former in you, the practical jokes that got more elaborate and more expensive. You spend all your money that you earn during the week on practical jokes, as I did anyway. It sounds childish, doesn't it? But it was. But the road show I love because you've got 15, 20,000 people there, people at home listening, and you've got to, you know, work it for both people, really, for the crowd that are there and at home, so they don't get fed up with saying, you know, "Oh, great Yarmouth." But really good fun, the road shows. I love them. I could have done it all year long, happily. No, it's not a job for a grown-up person. If you've got any intention of growing up at any point during your life, then I'd recommend not being a disc jockey. If you intend to stay childlike as opposed to childish, then it's certainly the job for you. It's very enjoyable, seriously. I mean, I don't think... I think it's more fun not growing up, really, anyway. It's, you enjoy life a lot more. I mean, I know a lot of, like, old guys and old women and who aren't really, because they're still really young at heart, because they love life. I always hate, like, the moaners and whingers and the grey people who get old very quickly, and it's like, oh, life's a real drag. I mean, I think it's just lucky if you can do something that you enjoy doing. And I'm lucky that all the things I do, you know, like the songwriting and the musicals and the radio and the TV, I just love.
Kind o' the Kinderbankelings mime van we, white o' the playpen, the sheen of her dress, fresh from the bathroom, soft in the nursery, soap-scented fingers I long to caress. Were you a prefect and head of your dormitory? Were you a hockey girl, tennis or gym? Who was your favorite? Who had a crush on you? Which were the baths where they taught you to swim?
It's fun just sitting there letting stuff pour out of your head, you know, it's great, even if it's rubbish.
Now, we all love him, we all know him, and even if we don't know him, we know of him. He lives, quite literally, on a farm. He's the man who introduced us to snooker on the radio, to darts on the radio, and, of course, to tea and biscuits on the radio. He's a deep, personal friend of mine, but he's also a lot more than that. He's hairy, he's monstrous, he's Dave, quite literally Lee, quite literally Travis.
Come on, you lot. Look.
When my goose gets dizzy and falls over and has to be taken to the vet in the car, the people listening actually like to hear about that, because it's real life. It's chickens and the dog's done this and the cat's done that. It's actually me just sharing parts of my life with the listener. Marianne and I enjoy a cup of mixed Darjeeling and Earl Grey here at home, and suddenly I thought, why not get a decent-sized flask, take it in with me? It started, people were laughing at me as I walked in the building. Now those very same people actually fight to get through the studio door to get a cup of my tea on a Saturday and a Sunday. So what more can I say? The Hairy Monster jingles were something that simply came about. I mean, you go through these phases. I, at the time, was well known for being from Manchester, which was a couple of 100 miles up the M1, and I used to think about these balmy jingles. And it's amazing how they caught on and people just don't forget them. And then I made a jingle, you know, the Hairy Monster from 200 miles up the M1. And people love it. And then I became, when I did the breakfast show, from the Hairy Monster, it became the Hairy Cornflake, which was ludicrous. Who can call themselves the Hairy Cornflake? But people still say it to me, which is daft. But it's nice. It's things for people to latch onto. It's a bit of fun. It's part of its time. I can't call myself the Hairy Cornflake. I can't call myself the Hairy anything now. Got to be very careful what I call myself. I hope that when people think about all the names that I've been called in my life, I hope at least that they will say to me, yes, there's one name, you're a communicator. It's a strange thing to say, but when I'm talking to the mic, I'm there with the microphone and I'm getting very confidential. with the microphone. It's, you know, and it is effectively talking to one person out there. So I suppose that would be the answer that everybody's looking for. You are talking to that one person, especially when you say things, look, you know, on a Sunday morning, excuse me, please, how can you do the ironing while I'm talking to you? I mean, I've spent all this time getting up this morning and arranging this studio and getting it nice and neat and getting all these wonderful... and you're ironing while I'm talking to you? It's this terrible sort of instant society that we've got, which is fine if you want to go and get a McDonald's. Go in there, you expect to go in there, you expect to be served in less than 60 seconds. If it's more than 60 seconds, you're annoyed and you're liable to walk out. So the whole world has gone along that route. I have to despair about new stuff. There's a lot of going back to the old stuff, of cover versions of old stuff, simply because there aren't writers around to do the new stuff. Maybe, in my worst nightmare, the way I feel about the fact that there are not any new DJs coming up to replace us guys who've been there for a long time, because they're not willing to train and learn. Maybe within the songwriting industry it's a similar story. Maybe there are people out there that have written the odd rap record and think, hey, this is good, I've made a few quid on this, don't need to take it any further. And unfortunately, if everybody stops and stands still, the new talent doesn't come through. That's the worst scenario. I think really that there are a lot of people sitting down there in their bunkers. You see, this is what everybody doesn't realize. Whilst we're all going berserk now, there are bunkers all over Great Britain. Inside the bunkers there are air conditioning, there's plenty of food supplies, areas where they can cycle around and keep fit. And this is not in the event of a nuclear holocaust. This is actually songwriters and talented people who realize that at this moment in time there is no room for them on this earth. And they don't want to fully give up, so they have run to their bunkers and they're waiting for the sign. The sign will come soon. Can you see the sun peeking over the clouds now? The sun will come out, the knock on the door, all right lads, it's safe. And up come all these great songwriters that have been hiding away for years. I think that's true. I think that's what's happening. There are bunkers all over Britain. Go around, everybody, with a stick and poke around the ground. When you hear a hollow metallic sound, there's a songwriter under there somewhere. There are people out there now who are saying, VLT, yeah, okay, fine, you know, he's all right. I could do better than that. But they're saying that without having had experience, and there is no substitute at all for experience. It's no good reading a book quickly and saying, I can do it. You've got to go through a little bit of pain to get where you want to go. There are people who I would have to consider are the last of their kind. And I suppose I'm one. It makes you sort of a bit dinosaurish, doesn't it, really? Say, yes, mate, well, when I've gone, that's it, really, it's all over. Now, of course, there's going to be loads of DJs to take my place when I decide not to do it anymore, or it's decided for me. But what I would like to see, and I would personally give anything to help to train these people, is to see somebody come in and say, excuse me, I like what you're doing, I like the idea of communicating, I like the idea of being a DJ, and I want to learn. I haven't heard that phrase from anybody. Nobody has ever come to me and say, I want to learn, talk to me, tell me your experience about being a DJ, because that's not the way it is today. It's, I am a DJ, I am not a DJ, and that will never, ever work. So the people that are the household names now, unless somebody just slows down and says, hold on, let me learn about this industry, let me really learn how to communicate, then perhaps, you know, you are now filming the last dinosaur of all, I tell you.
I expect by now that most of you ordinary people will be thinking, what great guys. But don't they ever take time to enjoy themselves? Or do DJs spend their whole lives just trying to make us happy? Well, mostly, yes. But remember, we're only human, and we love to have bonkers human fun, just like you ordinary people. So why not take a look now at some of my deep personal friends and the nation's favorite people enjoying some mad fun at the Christmas DJs party in fashionable London.
1, 2, 3, LF for Channel 4. Right, when you look at me.
25 years, we've been in the pop-tastic hands of Radio 1 and its bonkers, full of fun DJs. And let's just hope that all of them are still around to guide us through the next 25 with their insane mix of pop and chat-type wisdom. Although I must say that some of them will probably be a broadcasting from that great turntable in the sky as God's representatives on Radio Heaven FM. I personally can think of no other band of guys better qualified than these. Thanks, guys, from one DJ to another. I, Mike Smash, salute ya.
I didn't actually get to go this year. I can only imagine that my invitation got sort of lost in the post or something.
Hi, Mike Smash. I'm Bunkers, and I'm chock-a-block and rock and pop.
After the break, the final episode of Real Secrets, as Robert McKee re-examines the work of Ingmar Bergman. And of course, Ingmar Bergman's Through a Glass Darkly can be seen in its entirety after the break. Next week, For Love of Money witnesses the passing of an era as the oldest gentleman's club in the City of London, Gresham's, goes under the hammer. Also fashion designer Pam Hogg on collecting period costumes, racing expert John McCririck on the very British love of sporting art, and Vanilla Fielding on the golden age of smoking memorabilia. That's Without Walls next Tuesday at 9.
The imagery explained Ingmar Bergman's Through a Glass Darkly is in just a few minutes here on 4. While over on ITV shortly, the news at 10.